March 2026. The WNBA is currently the most valuable property in women's sports history. Valuation up 400%. Viewership shattering every ceiling once thought unbreakable. On the surface, it is a golden era. But look closer at the shadows, and you'll see a league eating itself alive. We are days away from a March 11th deadline that could shut down the sport. A lockout isn't just a labor dispute, it's a weapon. And as the negotiations hit a stone wall, a toxic question has moved from the fringes of the internet to the center of the sports world. Is this a fight for fair pay, or is it a coordinated effort to derail the greatest phenomenon the game has ever seen? Today, we deep dive into the civil war of the WNBA, the secret meetings, the rival leagues, and the gatekeeper mentality that may be sacrificing the 2026 season just to prove a point to one person. This is the Caitlin Clark Sabotage. To understand why people believe a sabotage is happening, you have to understand the sheer scale of the shift Caitlin Clark caused. For 30 years, the WNBA was a charity case in the eyes of the mainstream media. It was a league that survived on the back of NBA subsidies and a small, dedicated core of fans. Then came 2024. Caitlin Clark didn't just bring fans, she brought a different kind of fan. She brought the casuals. She brought the Fortune 500 sponsors who previously wouldn't look at a WNBA pitch deck. Suddenly, the Indiana Fever, a team that had been irrelevant for years, was the hottest ticket in North American sports. But here is the friction point. In professional sports, new money always upsets the old guard. The veterans of this league, women like Diana Taurasi, Brianna Stewart, and Kelsey Plum, spent decades in the trenches. They played in cold gyms in Russia during the off-season just to make ends meet. They flew commercial. They fought for every inch of progress. When Clark arrived, she was greeted with "Welcome to the league" hard fouls and a frosty reception from some of the league's icons. In 2024, we called it competitive spirit. In 2025, we called it growing pains. But now in March 2026, as the league faces a total shutdown, the narrative has curdled into something much darker. Here's where the sabotage theory gains its teeth. There are 3 players on this board, and their interests are no longer aligned. First, the WNBA league office. They want to capitalize on the Clark economy. They just signed a massive new media deal with NBC and Amazon. They need games to be played. They need Clark on the screen. Second, the WNBA-PA, the union. They are currently led by veterans who are at the tail end of their careers. They opted out of their CBA early because they saw the money Clark brought in and wanted their share. Fair enough, but their demands are so aggressive, asking for a 25% of gross revenue, that the league says it would result in a $460 million loss. Third, and most controversially, is Unrivaled. This is the 3-on-3 league founded by the players for the players. It just sold out the Barclays Center. It has high production value, massive private equity backing, and, most importantly, it is owned by the veterans who are currently leading the union negotiations. Do you see the conflict? The people sitting across the table from the WNBA owners, threatening to strike and shut down the 2026 season, are the same people who own a rival basketball league. If the WNBA season is delayed or canceled, the veterans still have a place to play. They still have a way to get paid. But Caitlin Clark, her entire value is tied to the WNBA and her massive broadcast deal with NBC. If the veterans hold the line and force a lockout, they aren't just hurting the owners, they're effectively freezing out the woman who made the pie bigger in the first place. We are currently in what analysts are calling the 11th hour. The WNBA has laid down a final ultimatum. Agree to the term sheet by March 11th, or the 2026 season, scheduled to tip off May 8th, will be delayed indefinitely. The union's tone has shifted from negotiation to defiance. Veteran players are taking to Instagram telling fans that the league is trying to bully them into a bad deal. but the fans aren't buying it like they used to. On Twitter and TikTok, the hashtag WNBA Sabotage tag is exploding. Fans are pointing out a suspicious detail. One of the league's biggest sticking points is an exclusivity clause. The WNBA wants its players to play only for the WNBA. This would effectively kill the veterans' Unrivaled league. Think about the psychological warfare happening here. If the union leaders, the owners of Unrivaled, refuse to sign a CBA that includes exclusivity, they are choosing their personal business interests over the start of the WNBA season. And who loses the most? The fans who bought fever tickets, the sponsors who signed with Clark, the expansion teams like the Toronto Tempo, who are supposed to debut this year. To a certain segment of the fan base, this looks like a scorched earth policy. If the veterans can't own the league, they'll burn the season down, even if it means Caitlin Clark spends her 24th year sitting on a couch instead of breaking records. The American sports media has turned this into a full-blown culture war. On one side, you have the traditionalists. They argue that the players deserve every penny, and if a strike is what it takes, so be it. They say calling it sabotage is sexist and dismissive of the players' labor rights. But on the other side, you have the economists. They argue that the WNBA is finally profitable for the first time in 30 years only because of one person. They see the union's tactics as a suicide mission. Then there's the NBC factor. Caitlin Clark recently began her role as a broadcaster. She is now a colleague of the people who pay the WNBA's bills. When she speaks on air about wanting to get back to the court, it's a subtle but powerful signal. She is positioning herself as the worker who wants to play, while the union leadership is being framed as the politicians. The narrative is now out of the union's control. Every time a veteran player fouls a rookie hard, every time a union rep gives a vague update on negotiations, the internet sees it through the lens of jealousy. They see a group of women who are tired of being told that a 22-year-old from Iowa is the only reason they're relevant. It's a battle of egos that has surpassed the battle of the bank accounts. Let's talk about the what if. What if they don't sign by March 11th? What if the 2026 season is lost? The damage would be irreparable. The Clark boom is built on momentum. It is built on the daily habit of checking scores, buying jerseys, and tuning in. You take that away for a year, and you don't just lose a season, you lose a generation of new fans. The sponsors will flee. NBC and Amazon have force majeure clauses in their contracts. They can walk away if the product isn't delivered. The WNBA could find itself right back where it was in 2019, fighting for scraps on a Tuesday night on NBA TV. If that happens, the sabotage theory becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The veterans will have successfully stopped the Caitlin Clark era, but they will have destroyed their own house to do it. Is it sabotage, or is it just the messy, ugly reality of a league finally becoming a big business? In the NBA, we've seen lockouts, we've seen greed, but we've never seen a labor dispute that felt this personal. We've never seen a union where the leaders own a competing product, and we've never seen a league so dependent on the shoulders of a single player. The WNBA is at a crossroads. They can choose to be a league that grows together or a league that dies fighting over who gets the credit. March 11th is the date. The world is watching. And for the first time, they're not watching for the highlights. They're watching to see if the league has the courage to survive its own success. What do you think? Is the union fighting for the players, or are they trying to dim Caitlin Clark's light before it outshines them all? Let us know in the comments, and if you want to stay updated on the 2026 WNBA lockout and the future of the game, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. We'll see you at tip-off, if there is one.